Today we are talking about race. Before we get started, I want to say that recent events shouldn't be what made me have this conversation with you guys. This is a conversation we should have had yesterday, whether yesterday is a month ago, 2 months ago, a year ago. It's something that should have happened sooner, and I can only apologise for the fact that it hasn't. I'd also like to say that I am leaving lots of resources down below of influencers you can follow, books you can read, charities you can donate to, creators to join Patreons of. I really encourage you to go listen to them because their voice is more important than mine, especially right now. So over the last week or so, we have been talking about racism a lot, and that has come from the murder of George Floyd, which was soon after the murderous behaviour of Amy Cooper in Central Park. I think the whole world has heard about these events by now, but I will leave some links down below as well explaining the events that really brought on these global conversations. Since these events, we've finally had white people like myself really listening to Black people and particularly Black content creators about what we can do to be better, basically. It's not enough to not be racist. It's really critical that we are actively anti-racist and that we appreciate that we have benefited from white privilege all our lives. We need to actively try really hard to amend that rather than just feel content in the fact that we don't think we're racist when you really need to actively do the work here. I think it's important to share some actions I've taken in the last week or so, because I think when you hear about actions one person has taken, it encourages you to take similar actions. I don't want this to be a look how great and woke I am. I just know that the more specific you are with sharing what you've done yourself, the more likely it is that someone else is going to follow suit. I've made donations to charities which have been recommended by Black content creators. I will leave links to recommended charities down below. When editing this video, I've noticed that I completely left off signing petitions, which is a huge impact. So I'm going to leave a list of petitions that you can sign down below as well, because that makes a difference. I've also signed up for some Patreons. There are a few content creators that have really helped me learn and grow when it comes to talking about racism and inequality, and I have gained so much free knowledge from them that it's been really unfair of me to not have signed up to their Patreons anytime sooner. When you talk about race really actively and freely, you're not going to get many sponsors because sponsors don't want to be linked to something so controversial, and this is why it's important to support these creators with Patreon so that they don't feel censored because they need to find funding for their work. So I have signed up to 3 different patrons. One of them is Adja Barbers. Her work is incredible, so educational, so inspirational, and I really recommend signing up to hers. There is also Michaela Loach. She does the Yikes podcast, and whilst I've only just recently started listening to that podcast, I have been a long-term follower of Michaela and I've learned a lot from her work. I find her hugely valuable, so I'm very happy to now be supporting her on Patreon. And then there is also Demi, who is a friend of mine and has taught me so much and has actively challenged me over the years. Over the last week, I've seen a lot of bloggers kind of have it dawn on them that they should be asking PRs about diversity when it comes to ad campaigns and events and all this sort of stuff. And these are things Demi challenged me with like a year ago. These are conversations I've already been having, and that's all thanks to her. And she's really quick to hold people accountable for their actions, and I think she's incredible and I should have been supporting her sooner. So Demi is also a vegan beauty blogger, and we've been, I don't know how long we've been following each other now, but she's just not only been challenging me when it comes to like more generic things, but very specifically beauty things. So if I've like taken even gifted products from a brand that doesn't have a diverse foundation shade, she'll be like, wait, why did you do that? And I would have said something like, do you know what, I was accepting lipsticks, I didn't think to look at their foundations. And she'll highlight like, well, you check whether or not they're vegan, you check whether or not they're cruelty free, why aren't you checking to see if they're diverse? I realised I clearly didn't care enough. I wasn't checking, I just wasn't caring enough, because I ask questions before I accept products and work with brands, and like, yeah, there are a lot of questions I ask now, but it's so important. But yeah, she's just really challenged me and held me accountable over the years and really helps me grow. Always. Like, I'm definitely not at the end of my journey now, and she's still gonna be like calling me out, and God, like, hi Demi, if you're watching this, like, let me know how I'm doing. I'm really lucky to be able to count her as a friend and as someone who will always be very honest. So this is probably going to be a bit uncomfortable. I'm a white person talking about race, and I've had to learn to accept that. This is going to be uncomfortable, and once you've accepted that and embraced that, and you're willing to have people call you out and correct you and know that you're going to learn and grow from it, that is That's the start we need. We are going to talk about racism, and I am going to do my makeup with you guys. I think it's really important for us white people right now to take the time to read, learn, listen, and also reflect on how we're going to take things forward in our lives. So particularly for me as an influencer and other people in my space, I think it's really important to not worry too much about what you should be posting on your Instagram feed right now whilst racism's trending, but instead figure out how you're going to incorporate talking about race into your everyday content and keep that going forward. We'll see how today goes, but maybe it'd be really cool to start a series where I'll do my makeup or my skincare, and I think it would just be really interesting to talk about kind of like how racist the brand is, whether or not they use a diverse range of models, whether or not they have a large shade range in their foundation collection, and whether or not they've spoken out about Black Lives Mattering, or whether or not they've just put a black square on their Instagram feed and done nothing else. But yeah, I am keen to hear your feedback on this video. Do not feel afraid to call me out. I will take what you say, I will go away with it, I'll think and I'll learn and be better in the future. So first up we have Pi Skincare. Now, what have Pi been doing? These guys have pledged to do better. I hope this has been a bit of a wake-up call for them. So I would say looking at their Instagram feed and their website, their Instagram feed is pretty white. It is not the worst I've seen, but it's really not great. When you go onto the website, you can kind of click on the products and then you can see them in use by model, and I didn't click through all their products, but I clicked through like 5 or 6 and they were all white models, and that's not good. If you want an example of a brand that does that right, you should check out Lush, because if you go onto Lush's page and you look at the models that are demoing their products, it's diverse and it's incredible to see. It's not only like using a diverse range of skin tones, but also when you're looking at like body shapes, ages, you can just tell it's such a big part of their ethos, and I really do love Lush for their inclusivity. But anyway, we're gonna put this on. I know that a lot of my black followers are always very keen to know how ashy a SPF is, because that is something that shows up a lot more on dark skin tones than white skin tones. Personally, I don't find this one ashy at all. I find it blends out really nicely, and it's also very good for sensitive skin. So I will share with you guys the statement Pi put out on their Instagram. So when it came to posting in the last 3 weeks, they did do more than the black box, and they did 3 posts. I think the most informative one they did about them as a brand going forward was one which said that Pi is committed to being part of the change, and not just now while the world is watching. Our long-term pledge, which we urge you to hold us accountable to, is to amplify more BIPOC voices using our social and digital platforms, empower our BIPOC colleagues, friends and customers through our work and culture, our products and partners we work with, continue to shine light on and donate to the movements and institutions that need our financial support, and then to remain open to and action feedback and criticisms as we go. So to me that does sound like a brand that is willing to move forward. They are inviting people to hold them accountable, and I am going to go away and have a conversation with them and see what more they are committing to doing. So I think that is one of those brands where we can say watch this space. I think it's a shame that it's taken this to learn, and I know it's very important that I take on the responsibility of talking to a lot more brands about this and holding them accountable, and this isn't something that I've done in the past, and it's something I really do need to do going forward. I'm definitely working on a series of pledges I can give you guys. I want to actively be part of the solution, and I want to be held accountable, and I think to be held accountable you have to make a promise to the people that support you, the people that follow you. So I am going to work on something a bit more concrete, something that can be measured, about what I am going to actively do going forward to make this a more inclusive space, and talk about what I can do to support like black beauty brands, and how I can use my space in the industry to have conversations with brands. Not to say I haven't had any of these conversations already, but I would say the conversations I've had in the past have really been focused around foundation shades, and it's more than that. It is about the models you use, it is about the influencers you work with. Although I have touched on that in the past, I don't think I've done enough. So it is kind of, I'm trying to find a way to commit to you guys and lay out some promises which will grow over time as I'm learning more. And I think I've forgotten to mention, but if you're white, you really do need to start reading the materials, do the work. I've been talking to my best friend a lot, and she has just really reminded me, like, look, if you're uncomfortable talking about race, it means you haven't read enough about it, and you're gonna find your voice on the matter the more you read. So that's what I've got to do. I've got to read, I've got to educate, and then I'm going to be a lot more powerful in the impact I can make. Next up we have this Per 4-in-1 tinted moisturizer. This is the shade Tan. So I was originally gonna semi-drag Per, because I've been in 2 minds about them for quite a while, because they have released a foundation range which is 100 shaders. It's called Love Your Selfie, and it showed that they were evolving in a post-Fenty world. And like, and I think we really have to remember this, like Fenty, when did that happen? It happened so long ago. And you thought, cool, look at this impact. Like within a year, every brand's gonna have diverse foundation ranges, and it's still not happened. Per obviously did see that, and they did create a new foundation range which had 100 shades, which was incredible. But then they still had their 2 old foundation ranges, including this one. This one had 4 shades, and their other one, which I reviewed the other week, had 11 shades. Preparing for this video, I went to go back and just kind of like fact checked how many shades this range had, and I was surprised to see that it has grown to 16. And the mineral pressed makeup has grown from 11 to 26. So I'm not saying those are perfect numbers, but all in all, I think it's incredible that they've expanded like that, and especially because this is like a bit more of a green, clean foundation range. Just so many in this green vegan beauty space. I have 5 shades of beige, and it's so good to see that they've made progress, and I haven't seen any announcement of it either. I don't know if this is something that they were planning on launching in, say, within the next month, and they've moved it ahead and don't have their advertising up to date with it, but it's interesting. But I did message Per Skincare as well, because I have recently featured them on my feed, and I noticed that they hadn't written anything. I think this was Monday. I'd noticed they hadn't written anything about Black Lives Matter, basically, about what was going on in the world. They replied back saying, "Hi Nicole, thank you for your message and for sharing these links. We are currently in talks internally on how we as a company can support and help both now and long term, as well as evaluating changes we need to make as a brand in order to become better educated on these matters and make changes." So whilst I am still very frustrated that they haven't really published much on their Instagram feed, at the same time, actions speak louder, and I would like to see them maybe make a donation and really come out with a good public statement. But I do think there is a chance that they will come out with a good public statement rather than a wishy-washy one, because they have actions to back up the fact that they are trying to be more inclusive. This is the old range. This is the shade Tan. I'm so glad to see that they have expanded it now, because this is a really nice formula, but I've not really worn it because I don't want to recommend it to you guys when I know that they've only got 4 shades. I'm really not giving you guys much of a recommendation there, am I? I want to say that the growth is good. It is great to see them growing and improving, but you can't take away the fact that it was an afterthought, and I think we really need to, I don't know, it's hard, like, do you hold on to that or do you forgive and move on? But I think it is important to remember it and take that into account. And like I say, it seems like they are really moving in the right direction, so hopefully, you know, their actions are going to continue to transform them as a brand when it comes to being a brand and how they deal with diversity and how they embrace all their customers. But yeah, I don't think we can forget whether or not it's been an afterthought or whether or not it was within the original launch. Are they a brand that launched with a full foundation shade, or did they wait? It's important. Shouldn't have to say it, but black people shouldn't be an afterthought, okay? I've been very frustrated in the past because tinted moisturisers, just, you never get that many shades of them. When it does come to trying to figure out how many foundation shades are acceptable, it is actually really hard to certify that. Like when we're talking about like vegan products and cruelty-free products, there is actually a certification, but when it comes to talking about whether or not a brand is racist, there isn't really a certification around being inclusive and diverse that I'm aware of, at least. So let me know if I'm wrong, but I haven't seen anything, and it would be really cool to see something like that emerge in the beauty industry. One thing which I think has been incredible is that Superdrug did do a Shades of Beauty campaign. I think they did this a few years back, and basically they made a commitment that they were no longer going to stock foundation ranges that were less than 20 shades, and encourage brands to cater to like warm and cooler undertones as well, make it easier for people to shop that way, because they were very aware that a lot of minorities didn't feel represented in the British high street, and they wanted to be part of the solution, and they actually were hugely active in being part of the solution. Thanks to them, we had vegan brands like MUA and Barry M expand some of their foundation ranges to be a lot more inclusive. I'm actually going to leave more information down below on the Superdrug Shades of Beauty campaign, because I do love Superdrug because I think they are often actively engaging and ahead of the trends, not only in the vegan beauty space but also when it comes to diversity, and that's just really important. So since 2017 they've had 398 new foundations launched. They are #1 for Afro hair care on the high street, and they held meetings with the UK's largest makeup brands and are delighted to say that Maybelline, L'Oreal and Revlon have already launched an additional 23 shades in response to the Superdrug challenge. I think they're just doing a lot to lead change in the high street. They also put a definition on what the bare minimum for a diverse foundation is, and obviously it's way more complex than like the bullet points I've given, but it's given a starting point and an expectation. It is that they expect a foundation brand to have 20 shades ranging from light to dark. Simple, and yet so many brands could not meet that and still can't. For me, as someone in a place of beauty influence, someone who is recommending vegan beauty products, I do find it really difficult when talking about vegan foundations. Like, should I limit the foundations I use to foundations which are over that threshold? I find it difficult because yeah, those are the brands I want to support, but I also think it's important to still have conversations about the brands which aren't doing so well. So I've started a vegan foundation review series recently, and that means if someone's going to search, say, the Body Shop Fresh Nude foundation, they will go onto my review, they'll watch me talk about it, and instead of seeing me say, oh, they've got 16 shades, blah, 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 I'm actually adding like critical thinking to that. So I'm actually saying they've only got 16 shades. It's not catering to a broad enough audience, and as a brand as big as them particularly, I think it's unacceptable. They have so many products, and why has this not been expanded to be inclusive enough? Like, get on with the times. This should have been done a decade ago, 2 decades ago. It should have always been done, but like really in modern day, I feel like it's come up a part of mainstream expectations, except people aren't checking when they're buying stuff. So I think that's really important to add the commentary and encourage the thinking, because obviously anyone who's black and watching my videos, when I say, oh yeah, it's got like 10 shades, they know that that means they're not going to be included. But as a white person, when you're watching it, you're like, oh cool. I think it's important to make people think, like, if you're going to be one of those 10 shades, yeah, fine, you can buy that foundation, but do you want to support that? And I think it's really important to make people think that, because they would overlook it otherwise. So next we are talking about MUA. MUA, Makeup Academy, I would say are a good brand. They care, they are active, and like, you just need to look at their Instagram page, look at their brand campaigns, and just know that it's always diverse. You can tell that they understand that black people are part of their customer base and they want to make them feel included. I think that is great. And also, oh god, I don't look very cute right now. I know that this isn't necessarily something that impacts you guys, but when I go to their influencer events, those are some of the most diverse events I go to. I think it's important that you know that they care and they don't treat their black customers as an afterthought. And their products are really cool. They're all vegan, they're all cruelty free, and they're super affordable too. So all in all, I really recommend them. I've done a review of the MUA foundation. It is a £5 foundation. It's a matte foundation. It's really good for oily skin. I actually do have a blog post which talks about foundation shades, and it ranks vegan foundation shades from brands with the most shades all the way down to ones with like a shocking amount of shades, like 3 shades. And I think that's really worth having a look at, and looking where the foundation you use stands on that, and maybe think about replacing it with a different one. So MUA have 24 shades, and the Superdrug bar for the bare minimum is 20. So it's not a huge range, but it is acceptable, and it is definitely a range from light to dark. Some of the best ones you can find for diversity though would be Lush, would be Milk. What else have we got up there? Revolution have one which is like 50 shades, and then Elf as well do a foundation which is £10 or under, I believe, which is Flawless Finish, and that has 40 shades as well. So there are options out there, and there are brands which are good support. So when I originally did that blog post, I did an Instagram post to go along with it, and this was one of the like first times I spoke about race, or like really like made that the focus of the post I was doing, rather than just like mentioning it on the side of a foundation. So this is a time where I've tried to talk about race and I've really slipped up, and I was really embarrassed because I made a mistake. And I do just remember being mortified and kind of like, and that's definitely, in hindsight, me centering myself around it. The language I'd used in my Instagram post was talking to my followers and assuming they were white. And that wasn't right, because I know not all my followers are white, and I even created that post like primarily thinking of my non-white followers who struggled finding foundation shades. But then when I was writing my post, I was saying, guys, we need to do better. We need to think about whether or not the foundations we're buying are helping out everyone. And I can't remember what I'd written exactly, but it was definitely talking to my followers, assuming they were all white, and someone pointed that out to me and I was mortified. Yeah, I'm still mortified that I did that, but I've learned from it, and I'm really careful in how I talk in my posts now. And when I am writing a post or a section of post which is directly for my white followers and demanding they do better, I am very clear to say this part's for my white followers, because I never want to make anyone else feel alienated at all. I really want to commit to doing more posts for my black followers and trying to think of a way to do that, because obviously when it comes to talking about Afro hair care, yeah, sure, I can like mention brands, but it's not something I kind of review, you know? So I'm trying to think of more ways to really actively bring those products onto my page. But yeah, we'll figure it out, it will happen. I think I'm actually going to do a bit of this around my eyes as well. That's one of the great things about this product. I'm not really talking about the products, that's the point of this video. We're not really talking so much about the products, we're talking about the brands and how they're doing. MUA had been active on social media talking about Black Lives Matter, talking about the situation as it went on, sharing resources, and also made a donation. And yeah, I'm a fan of the brand, basically. I feel like they're one of the brands that actually understands what it means to be inclusive, and have been actively doing it before it's become trending. Next up, let's go on to the eyebrows. So this is the Milk Kush Fiber Brow Gel. So this is Milk. They are an American brand. They are fully vegan, they are cruelty free, and they use very clean ingredients too. That's kind of their niche. I just feel like whenever you look at Milk, you do see a diverse brand, whether or not it's looking at their Instagram feed, looking at the models they use for their campaigns, or looking at their products themselves. Their foundation ranges aren't the like biggest I've seen, but they're still definitely in the better half of the spectrum. I am a fan of Milk. I've recently invested in their Flex Stick foundation and I'm really impressed with that. You can see the review on that as well. God, I'm really plugging my foundation series. I don't mean to. Genuinely just think it's helpful. And I really like this brow gel as well. I think it's really natural looking. I like the more like natural look over the summer. But yeah, I'm still quite new to Milk, and I've not actually worked with them as a brand. Like, I've not got a relationship with the PR or anything, so it's hard for me to give you too much information on that. Just from what I have seen online and the impression they get and the impression I get from other non-white influencers about the brand, it seems to be like they are kind of like a favourite and are progressive. Now, here's a product I feel a bit embarrassed to have because, gosh, are appalling, to be quite frank. Their foundation shades are horrendous, like really, really, really bad. I've spoken about it before online, and I've had people kind of like defend them because they're a European brand, and somehow people seem to think that's excusable when a brand is European. Just in Europe, we don't really cater for black people. It's like, that doesn't mean it's okay. I bought this mascara because I had to do a video for a company I was working for, reviewing 5 different sustainable mascaras, and I was struggling to find 5, to be honest, and this one uses some ocean waste plastic. I brought this one to review for that video, but all in all, I don't really like Gosh as a brand because they aren't inclusive at all. Like, their shade ranges are just appalling, absolutely horrendous, and they are stocked in Superdrug. I don't believe their foundations are anymore, but I know Superdrug will have had that conversation with Gosh as a brand, and I know Superdrug will have said, look, we've got the Shades of Beauty thing, you'll no longer be able to stock your foundations in our stores if you don't expand your range. And clearly they chose not to bother. So this will be my last ever purchase from them because they're just not right. Tell me if you disagree, but I just don't think any amount of patience with that brand can undo that. They've been very silent as well. I think they maybe posted the black square, but they've been very silent around all of this. So cut them out is my advice there. Next up, I'm going for the highlighter. We're going to use some Barry M. Barry M. Now, this is another brand I don't have any relationship with. I've never been to a PR event, never been in contact with them, so I know a little less about them than I do about some of the other brands I've spoken about today. But from what I can see online, it seems like they're not really doing much. One of their foundation ranges they have invested in and created more shades for. That would have been part of the Superdrug Shades of Beauty campaign, and it's only the one they've done that for. I'm not really getting the vibe that they're doing all that much or being very active. I might have a quick look on their Instagram feed, but like, I think Barry M might be a brand I'm gonna have to cut out as well. Yeah, so Barry M, they did the black square, and they also, I can't see any evidence that they donated or anything, although that may have happened and they may have posted it on their story. I know that not every brand is posting on their grid that they have. Posted some artwork and didn't even credit the creators. Then they ended up saying, we've tagged 2 of the artists, but we can't seem to source the other 2, so if anyone knows, please let us know. That's just like, here's a pretty image of us showing that we care rather than doing something a bit more active and sharing resources, sharing a black content creator to their platform, which is huge, and crediting them properly. Like, there are so many different things they could have done, and they just shared a pretty picture that they didn't even credit and then did a black square. So no, not impressed with how GRWM dealt with this, and I think that is another brand to cut out. My battery is actually running really low, and I'm getting on to like the best brand I want to recommend in this video, and that is Kitaka of London. So these guys do gorgeous lip glosses, and this one is in the shade Tiger's Eye. I've just ordered another one this morning. I think I ordered, I want to say Morgan Eye. I think it's like a purpley shade, and I like my purples as well, but this one is just gorgeous. Kitaka of London is a black owned business and London based. I have met the founder. Have I met her once? I think it might have only been once. We do message every now and again, but she's called Patrice and she is absolutely lovely. If I put too much on my lips, I actually often use this as a bit of a bronzer on my face. I think it looks really lovely. It's got a bit of a sheen to it as well. It's just absolutely beautiful. These are palm oil free as well. I actually did a post on my Instagram today which was talking about black owned vegan beauty businesses, and I'm going to leave the link to that down below, and I'm going to tag all the brands down below as well so you can go check them out, because it's just so important to use your money right now to support black businesses, to donate to charities, to support content creators, just in whatever way you can. And sorry, back on topic of charities, one-off donations are great, but if you can commit to something even as small as £3 a month, like regular donations really help charities forecast their spending. Like, one-off donations are great, but yeah, it's nice of them to be able to say, oh well, we get this amount of money coming in each month, and then they can plan how they'll spend that, rather than when you get a one-off donation you've got this big pile of cash but it's not sustained. You don't know how long that's going to last you or anything, so it really does help charities, particularly smaller ones, when you do regular donations, so please do consider that. I'm pulling up my top finally in like the last 2 minutes. I am hoping this video has kind of just opened some dialogue about racism in the beauty industry, I guess, and particularly around the vegan beauty space. Like I said at the start of the video, that I really want to find ways to incorporate this conversation into the content I create, rather than just capitalizing on it being a trending topic and talking about it this week when racism is trending. I don't want to be doing that. I don't want to just be parroting what incredible black content creators are saying. I want to be taking on board their lessons and working it into my content and making my content better for it, and using the relationships I have with brands and other influencers to create a positive change. Yeah, I hope I'm doing that. I am still hugely imperfect when it comes to this. Anyone white watching, just know that we're allowed to do this imperfectly. Just remember that when someone calls you out on getting it wrong, to take it graciously. Don't make it all about you. Thank them for pointing it out. Listen to what they're saying. Go away and do your research and learn from it, and come back and acknowledge your mistake and move forward with it. This is what I keep hearing, and this is what I'm taking on board. I really need to keep on reading Why I'm No Longer Talking to White People About Race. I've started reading that and it's been so valuable, and I'm learning a lot, and I need to continue learning from it. Once I'm done with that book, I will move on to another book from the recommended readings down below. I'll keep learning, and I'll keep getting better at having this discussion and finding ways to actually make change, because this should have all been happening so long ago. I'd really like to throw out a very big thank you to anyone who has called me out in the past, anyone who has challenged me, and I'm just very grateful for it. But yeah, white people, we've got to do better. If you're an influencer, hopefully this encourages you to have a similar conversation on your platform. And every other white follower I've got, like, take these conversations into your homes, into your friendship groups, into your workplaces, and step up and read, learn, do the work. Do the work and don't stay silent. That's kind of the key messages I'm picking up. I don't know if I even ever introduced myself. My name's Nicole, this is Vegan Beauty Girl, and thank you so much for watching. And until next time, bye.